So I'll introduce our speaker. Annika Kahn is the founder of Youngshin Fitness. She is a lifelong athlete and a four-time world champion, grand champion in the Korean art of Kuksul 1, achieving the rank of third-degree black belt. Her Youngshin Fitness workout is a national and international phenomenon. Annika brings 20 years experience in Eastern and Western modalities of movement in fun and inspiring ways. It is my pleasure to now welcome Annika Kahn.
Thank you so much, Mary. Hi, everyone. My name's Annika, and my company is Youngshin Fitness, Jungshin Fitness, and it is a Korean word that means focused mind or straight spirit. And I would love to just hear how you guys are doing today. So if you could just unmute. I don't know if you can unmute, but if you can unmute and just tell me how you're feeling in this moment, I would appreciate that, or put it in the chat. You can't unmute. Okay, no worries. That's totally fine. So you can just track that for yourself. So today's session, usually I have a moving session with swords because that's what Youngshin Fitness is about. But what I'd like to talk with you all about today is energy manners, what that means, how we can use that for ourselves, for our relationships, for our clients, for our families, and moving meditation. And so I'll take you through a few slides. I'm not sure if, I don't think you guys can unmute. Is that correct, Mary? They cannot unmute right now?
I don't, I can ask them to unmute.
It's okay. I want to make this more interactive than
Sure.
me talking with ghosts with swords behind me. So if you can put into chat just how you're doing right now. And I thought what we could do is, and I do this about 100 times a day, is come into our basics. And so before I share my slides, I'd like to have you come into your basics. And so what that means as a human being is you draw your attention, 80% of your attention, into your spinal column. So whether you're lying down or sitting or standing, just reference your spinal column. And then feel your feet on the ground. So we're grounding to our spine. We're coming into what we call basics. Feeling our me, not me. So you're in your body, and then there might be some sound around you. And I'd like you to have a 20% light attention to the computer here. So just 20%. So most of your attention is in the back of your body. And that's called basics. And what that does is it allows us to come into our right relationship with gravity. So if you don't know a lot about me or a lot about Youngshin Fitness, I'll tell you a little bit. My background is in math and in martial arts and in fitness. And so I, like most martial artists, have an awareness to my surroundings at all times, and to mathematical angles, and especially concepts like gravity, electromagnetism, right? So everything that I do and that Youngshin does and that I do with my clients or classes is grounded in physics. So I like to just kind of set that stage. And so as you're listening today, see if you can, we're going to layer in the basics. So basic number one, attention to the back of your body, your spinal column. Basic number two, lower belly breathing. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. And then basic number three, knowing what is in your external and internal space. Maybe you have a stomach ache, maybe there's some noise outside, maybe you're getting text messages. So knowing what's internal and external stressors, which we'll go over in a minute. And then saying your name to yourself. So you're grounding to your frequency, and everything has a frequency. Light has a frequency, water has a frequency, names have frequency, right? I see some nods. So you guys all know that. So excellent. So those are what I like to call basics. And I do that. I go into my basics before and after every situation. So today I'm with you and we're on Zoom. It's a 2-dimensional platform, right? And then when I leave here, I go into another part of my life and I redo my basics. And so I have my family do that. I have my my clients do that. And it is a skill set that we have as martial artists. I would love to know from you, if you could put in the chat, like, what is your discipline? Are you a fitness instructor? Are you a dance instructor? Like, I'd like to get a little bit of information about you before I just move on. So if you could put it into the chat or just unmute and tell me, what is your practice? Personal trainer, 17 years. Okay, great. Yoga, Pilates, fitness, cycle instructor. Okay. Yoga background. Wonderful. Okay. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. That really helps me orient to who I'm speaking to. Oh, Muay Thai. Great. Okay. Thank you. That's helping me a lot. Okay. So just like yoga, just like martial arts, just like, I don't think I could say that about cycling, but there's lots of different forms, frequencies, and flavors, right? And if you're a personal trainer, you're working one-on-one with a client. So knowing that is your first part, that is our first part of knowing what is in our immediate surroundings. So I'm going to go fitness, dance, and complementary therapies. Okay, wonderful. And then if you could also put into the chat, what do you hope to get out of today? Because I don't want to start talking about electricity if you guys want to get something else out of today. So why are you here? Okay, energy flow. Okay, great. To be more in tune with my body. Great, thank you. Be present. Yay. Thanks, everyone. And you know what? I mean, I feel like we're colleagues. We are colleagues. And so please just feel free to unmute whenever you want and to say something. So that really helps me orient to my surroundings as well. I have lots and lots and lots of information. We don't have hours and hours of time. So what I'd like to do is start to share some slides with you and share a little bit about my experience with being in tune with my body, energy movement, energy flow, and what that and how that has, guided me in my life. So let me go ahead and share this with you. So if you are familiar with Bruce Lee, one of the things, the reason I have this image here is, and again, we're in our basics. So no matter what, as we're going through this, and this is a deep practice, see if you can continue to keep 80% of your attention in the back of your body, in your spinal column. And just a light touch, a 20% light touch on the outside world, which is your outside world right now is this slide. It's a 2-dimensional slide, right? So what is happening and why I'm using this image of Bruce Lee is because he is exhibiting here his basics. He's leaning back into his spinal column. He has a light touch on his outside area, but you can see from his stance that he also has attention to the sides and above and below. And so as we move through, the 21st century, and we as humans are evolving, which is one of my passions, is the evolution of the human being, we are challenged more and more, in my experience, to knowing our energy manners. So I wanted to just get some terms out of the way. So energy is the amount of electricity moving through a unit. It could be our cells, it could be a socket, it could be a cord. It's just, that's all it means, is the amount of energy moving through a space, electricity moving through a space. And so Bruce Lee here, and if you're, yoga, again, like yoga stems back, 5,000 years ago. The purpose of yoga was to have a healthy spirit. That was the purpose of yoga. It wasn't to strengthen the quads. It wasn't to help your biceps. It wasn't to have a nice butt. It was to be at one with your spirit. And so there is a sacred lineage and an ancient wisdom, as we all know, to movement. But how does that help us today? So these quotes from Bruce Lee: hold ground with purpose and without malice. That is being in your basics. You can't hold ground with purpose and without malice if you're triggered by something coming into your space, or if you're tired, or if you're fatigued. So even when you're tired and fatigued, we do our energy basics: attention to the back of the body, lower belly breathing, and then being aware of your surroundings. It takes a second. That's why you can do it 1,000 times a day. And it's a useful tool, I think, also with clients that are coming into our space. Do we know where they're coming from? I mean, post-COVID, where are they coming from? Many of our clients have lost family members. Many of them are carrying, stress from 2 years, external stressors from 2 years. So being human involves, in this day today, 21st century, holding ground with purpose. And then Bruce Lee's other quote: the real stillness is stillness and movement. So sitting meditation is a much newer concept than moving meditation. We have been moving in meditation for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And that if you're doing yoga, it's moving meditation, or if you're doing dance, it's moving meditation. And so knowing when to actually sit and meditate and know when to move and meditate is also part of being a healthy human in the 21st century. And then I love this quote by Bruce Lee: my sole purpose is to actualize myself to be an artist of life. So, and this kind of jumps into, the evolution of movement and where we are today as a species. So obviously Bruce Lee, I mean, he's an example I use, one, because I'm writing an article about him this month, but also because he was a trained martial artist. He developed a system that was an extension of his spirit, of who he was. And he trained himself to become a philosopher on top of that. So he used movement and philosophy to bring Jeet Kune Do to the world. And so I know that as instructors, personal trainers, you have your own philosophy of how you engage with people. You have your own philosophy of how you hand down this movement. Zhang Xin is an extension of my training as a martial artist and my upbringing and is my philosophy. So probably you've seen this slide. Thumbs up if you have, thumbs sideways down, right? So, this can be a little tricky, right? In terms of discussing evolution. But what I like to also orient ourselves two is our dimensionality. So just for a moment, you have your attention in the back of your body. You have lower belly breathing going on. So you're inside your body. And then you're aware of your surroundings. So 20%, you have a screen in front of you, and I don't know what's going on above or below to the side of you. But we are three-dimensional beings, right? Let's just try to agree on that first. So for those of you who have kids, there's a great movie called, a great animation movie called Flatland. And it takes us through the dimensions. And so in quantum mechanics, there are 11 dimensions. There's also a fabulous documentary on the 11th dimension. So there are 11 dimensions in mathematics, right? And that's string theory and parallel universes and the metaverse and all this stuff that we are starting to have come into our space, right? When we were hunter and gatherers, we were not like, oh, I care about the 11 dimensions. No, that was not, our consciousness was not being challenged in that way, because we were hunting and we were gathering and we were surviving. So if you think about 0 dimensions, it's just, there's nothing, there's no dimensionality, right? If you think about the first dimension, it's just a line and there's a direction of north and south, that's it. Second dimension is a piece of paper, right? This is second dimension, right? Third dimension is us, length, width, and depth. Fourth dimension is third dimension in space and time. Okay. And then it goes on and on and on up through the dimensions. So why do I mention this? It's because our minds sometimes don't have the understanding, or we forget that we are just 3 dimensions. And what does that mean in terms of our place and time in this universe? That means that we get sick. That means that we get tired. That means that we have dis-ease. That means all of these things that come with being not a piece of paper, but a human being. So I like this slide because what we can see is, and when I'm teaching a junction course, there's lots of interaction. So I'm sorry if it feels like I'm just talking at you, but feel free to unmute and pop in anytime you want to say anything. So what we can see from this slide is whether you believe in evolution or not, you see the evolution of the spinal column, right? There's an evolution happening of the spinal column in this. Our chimpanzee relatives have a neutral spine, and we go from neutral spine to standing on 2 feet, which we did prematurely, right? We did that too fast. And so we put a ton of internal, external stressors on our system. And we are the most healthy in our hunting and gathering body. You can see that the guy in the middle, Tony, I don't know his name, but Tony, he is in the most fit shape. His attention to gravity is very stable based on all the other people in the photo here, right? And eventually we go into extreme flexion in the spine, extreme extension in the wrists, extreme contraction and extension in the upper cervical spine. And that's not even the last image, because now we're on these phones, so we don't, that computer even is out of date. So we have this evolution process based on what? Based on our external demands. So if we look at that for a second, we go, well, what were our external demands? I mean, we can go way, way, way back, right? But let's just start with the hunter and gatherers 100,000 years ago. What were the external demands? There was lots of movement as a tribe. There was the need to eat and the need for shelter and the need for safety. Those were the external demands. And moving in from 100,000 years ago into eventually the Industrial Revolution, the 1800s, our external demands shifted. Now our external demands were making machines building machines. And, you know, I jumped hundreds of thousands of years, but for the sake of this presentation, I just want to talk about the ages. So we had the age of the hunter and gatherers, the age of the Industrial Revolution. Post-Industrial Revolution, penicillin was developed. So what did that mean? That means now we have a drug that can keep us alive, where we didn't have that before. So the whole concept of being human and being alive shifted after the Industrial Revolution. And now we're moving into post-Industrial Revolution. I know it's called the Age of Wisdom. So supposedly we are now in the Age of Wisdom, and we are. And so our external demands have shifted, right? We sit more, we use our body less and less. Exercise is a privilege. Exercise isn't used to, I mean, some exercise, if you're a really good instructor, you're like, yeah, we're going to do this pose because it's going to help your kidneys, or it's going to help your blood flow, or it's going to take care of your heart, right? But most exercise is a way to develop muscles and to release stress. And there's a lot of stressors on the 21st century human being. So I like to just kind of present that because, you know, yoga is ancient, martial arts is ancient, cycling not so much. Gymnastics is ancient. These are ancient forms of movement that were designed specifically for keeping the body alive. And now we have these forms and we don't necessarily need them to keep the body alive. Do you guys have any questions before we move on to the next slide? How's everyone doing? Up here, attention in the back of your body. Okay. So here's one of the pieces of awareness that we have. It's called an external stressor. So as humans, we have internal stressors and we have external stressors. Let me just jump this slide for a second. Okay. So this slide in itself can cause stress. Just looking at this slide can cause stress, right? Not if you have 80% of your attention in the back of your body, though. So that's our challenge. That is our challenge as humans right now, is to keep our relationship to gravity in right alignment at all times. And there are some great books. You can email me later and I'll share the books that I love. One of them is Body Electric. And anyway, I can share those books with you. But these are external stressors that happen to us all the time, right? So we have all these things coming at us, and we have to figure out a way to not get sick and to not feel depleted and to not have our bodies succumb to the stresses of this. So we'll go through we'll talk about external and internal stressors in a moment. But the reason I have this slide here is because, again, we forget in my experience, we forget that we have evolved to this place in space and time, 3 dimensions, in the 4th dimension, space and time, today on planet Earth. We are more aware of death of our bodies, death of the planet. We are more conscious and we are more aware than we have ever been. And that in itself takes a different type of meditation. It takes a different type, that awareness, that consciousness that, 75,000 years ago, we did have our hominid ancestors were the first animal, as we know, as far as we know, to be curious about death. There was this curiosity, something or someone would die, and there was this big celebration and ceremony. So that was happening 75,000 years ago. But the consciousness that we have now in amongst our species is very acute. So I don't know about you, but I think about death every day. Every day, and especially coming post-COVID, which, you know, we know what that was, but that was like, okay, talk about biological variability, right? That virus, and it's still there, obviously, has made us even more conscious about our impermanence. And so I say this with hope, and I say this just as a colleague to you, is I'm also in this bottleneck of evolution as you are. And the one thing I know that can help is basics, attention in the back of your body all the time. If you lose it, you come back. Lower belly breathing, because it calms the digestive system down, calms the nervous system down, and then your awareness. So right now, like, just because you're on a screen doesn't mean we have to be on the screen. It means you can sit back and just let the information come in, right? I'm just the person with the mouth that's talking, right? Let the information come in. So I like this slide because it's one way of seeing your relationship to gravity. So just take a moment, now that you've got your basics going on, right? Take a moment with your attention in the back of your body, lower belly breathing, your relationship to gravity. And when I'm teaching a Zhengxin class, we really do pay attention to how we're moving with the sword and gravity. But draw your attention to the bones, your skeletal system, under your muscles, surrounding your organs, and see if you can actually see what your skeleton is doing. So when you have that, you know, my meditation happens to be the physiology of the body. Maybe your meditation is on mantras or on movement or whatever, but can you actually see your skeletal system? That is a meditation, to bring your attention into the muscles, the bones, the tendons, the ligaments. Now we know that bones are disconnected. And so that if there are two bones that are connected, we've got an arthritic condition. So we've got this skeletal system our bones are completely disconnected, where they're connected with tendons and ligaments, right? But our skeletal system is this tensegrous system that moves really gracefully, even though it's constrained with muscles and tendons and organs and ligaments. So if you can help your clients, yourself, your family, draw the meditation into the skeletal system, there's a whole, they do this in the Reiki system a lot. There's a release of stress. I don't know if you can feel it now, but when you can draw your attention to the tensegrity of the skeletal system, you can feel the bones that are discontinuous. There's this relaxation that happens through the muscles. And in that relaxation, there's de-inflammation that can occur. There's, you know, great health benefits to just this meditation on the skeletal system. So I don't know if you could feel that or not, but I just did. We've already done that slide. So I'll be able to show you the whole slide without, okay. Oops. Sorry. I need to come out of there for a second. There we go. Can you guys see this okay, or is this thing in the way? You guys can see it okay? Okay. So we've talked about evolution. We know that we are a product of external and its internal variations throughout thousands and thousands and thousands of years. I wasn't taught that when I was born, right? I wasn't taught that until much, much later, until I started to have injuries and I started to find fitness and I found martial arts and all of this stuff. I thought, oh, this is it. We're just, look at us humans. Here we are. You know, I didn't have that awareness of, oh, wow, the fact that I have like 5 fingers hasn't changed for hundreds and thousands of years. Now, how many of you don't have wisdom teeth? You weren't born with wisdom teeth. Anybody? Cool. Chantal. Okay. I can't see all of you here, but can you put it into the chat if you were born without wisdom teeth? I only saw one hand up. How many of you have had your appendix removed? You would know. It's really painful. Okay. It's really, really painful when you have appendicitis and you have to go to, for some reason, my mouse isn't allowing me to see the chats, but maybe Mary, we'll come back to that at the end, and because we can talk about the comments in the chats. So great. I see some chats coming in. So you had appendicitis, they take out this organ. You can't just have an issue with your liver and remove your liver and go back, you know, the next day or the next 2 days to right. But with the appendix, you can. Why is that? And some of you are born without wisdom teeth. Why? And I'm sure everyone has a baby toe, but maybe check right now to make sure that you still have your baby toe. So these are pieces of our human physiology that we don't need anymore. But evolution is a process. We probably won't be around to see this unless, of course, you can jump to the 5th dimension and then you can, you know, live for a lot longer. But for now, we are limited in the third dimension. And over time, hundreds and thousands of years, more and more humans, if we don't destroy our planet, will be, and in fact, I should pause there. We can't destroy our planet. The planet is going to be fine, right? We can mess up our lives, but the planet has been here for a long time. It's going to be here. So we can assist in the health of our planet, but we can't actually destroy it. We can just destroy our species, you know, and that's, so let me just pause there because that's a whole other thing. So, so there will be humans born with more and more without wisdom teeth. So ask your friends who have kids, do their kids have wisdom teeth? Some people are born without appendices. Why? We don't need them anymore. These are organs that were useful and we just don't need them. Baby toe, yeah, not very useful, super cute, but not very useful. Don't need it for walking. So when we look at an organism like ourselves and we look at how we move and how we ground into energy manners, we are paying attention to the safety of our organism, right? So let's just stop for a second. I'm keeping track of time. Good, no, we're fine on time. Go ahead and write down in the chat or on a notebook, so we can share when I stop sharing these slides. What are 5 external stressors that you have in your life? And what are 3 internal stressors that you know about? And I'll give you a second to do that. And then I want to hear them when we get to the Q&A. I'll stop so we have a little bit more time for Q&A. I want to hear those from you. So an external stressor could be like, let's say you're driving. Well, driving is an external stressor. But then you get a text and the text is really stressful, right? Now you've got two things happening. And then you're like, oh God, okay, let me just eat some sugar because I'm really stressed out. And so you eat some sugar. And now you're creating this internal stress, right? And then we get to that slide where you're just like, right? That is why are we experiencing this more and more? Why do we go to, mainstream doctors and we hear more and more, meditate? Are you taking a meditation class? Go to yoga, right? We are being pulled as a species into the sign of the times. And the sign of the times is we are using our bodies less and less and less, and we are using our brains and our minds more and more and more. That's happening. And one of my instructors, Dr. Brian Swim, talks about that. He started talking about it in the early 1980s, where we can't see as a species that we are in a bottleneck of evolution. We can't see it, right? The trilobites from, millions and millions of years ago couldn't see that some of them were going to develop eyes, and the other ones that didn't develop eyes would just die out. They didn't know that. Evolution just kind of happens, and then you're like, oh, look at that, I don't have my baby toe. Huh, somebody talked about that 100,000 years ago. Look at that on CanFit Pro. Right? So when we have, so right now we are being asked to have a sense of biological variability and use our movement, our dance, our yoga, our personal training, our mindfulness in ways that we haven't had to use before in order to survive. That is the survival of the fittest right now, is what do your energy manners look like? Because not having good energy manners, and what does that mean? So pause a second. What that means is you're out of relationship with gravity, which means you can't be in right movement, you can't be in right action, you can't have right thought. Anytime we're out of relationship with gravity, we put stress on our digestive system, we put stress on our spinal column. So energy, the amount of electricity moving through your body, and then manners. In martial arts, you bow when you go into your school, right? You bow to your instructor. There's a level of etiquette and manners that are inherent in martial arts, but manners everywhere, right? Like, is it, so if I'm on my phone right now and you guys are, I'm like, oh, hey, but that's not very, that's not good manners, right? So energy manners means that you are creating safety for your organism, your physical body, and in turn, that creates safety for somebody else's physical body, emotional, and spiritual body. And that enhances biological variability. So we could say, thousands of years ago, the species that didn't develop eyes died out. Yeah, pretty much, right? We could say during our hunting and gathering period, or the Industrial Revolution period, I mean, penicillin saved a lot of people, but before that, it was biological variability. You either survived or you didn't survive. And we're experiencing that now with COVID. But in this day and age, the day of wisdom, what could we say our biological variability is? What could we say will enhance the safety of our organism? And I like to say that it's energy manners, that it's how we carry our physical body in relationship to people, places, and things. And that will enhance biological variability. That's a lot. So energy manners, biological variability helps prepare our body for internal and external stressors. And I want to hear your internal and external stressors. One way that I've learned to do this is through junction, using a sword, and we bring the sword over our spine. So I've developed a system that literally brings an object over our spine in order to right the relationship, right? And you can check out junction if you don't know about it. But you do this in just the little tools that I've taught you today, and you can do this with your family, your friends, your clients. First thing you do, attention to the back of the body, lower belly breathing. What is your relationship to gravity? Is your skeletal system forward? Are you back? Are you sideways? What's happening internally? And start to do that meditation on the internal body. So if you think about it, when you were born, you were born, you come through the birth canal. First of all, that's like a thing, right? That's a huge stressor. But you don't know that because you're a baby and you don't have that cognition yet. You're not like, I mean, maybe we do know. I don't know. I don't remember any of that. But if you're a mom or your dad or whatever, who's ever here, you see, I saw my son. I mean, he was lying down, he couldn't do much. And then he learned to sit up, and then he got on all fours, and eventually he's learning to walk, and he's walking by falling, and as a mom, you're like, oh my God, he just hit his head for the 20th time, and those internal and external stressors start very, very, very young. And now here we are going, I wonder why I need this surgery. I wonder why it's so. Being human is I think we forget that what our physical bodies have gone through from standing up too soon, right? And so that helps me as a teacher bring more compassion to my clients and more compassion to my own physical body. So we're going to add on the last layer. You have your attention in the back of your body. Lower belly breathing. Now take your hands and place them on your lower back, which is where our kidneys reside. And by just doing this, we are saying to our fight or flight system, our limbic system, that we are not in danger. So sometimes when I'm really stressed out and I'm speaking to somebody, or I'm traveling, I keep my hands, the palms of my hand on my lower back the entire time. And that helps the adrenals communicate to the limbic system that you are in a safe place, that your organism is safe. We go through a lot of these glands and organs in Junction Fitness and the Junction Fitness training. The thyroid, the thymus, and the adrenals are the top three. But that's something that you can do now. And how do you know as a client, a personal trainer, or how do you know if your client or you are experiencing lower back pain versus adrenal fatigue? How do you know that? Because you can start to feel, you'll start to feel the pulse. Oh, my adrenals are pulsing. You can also do it by taking the heel of your right palm, placing it on your forehead between your eyes, and one hand on the lower back, and you can sense that pulse. And if this pulse is really high, your adrenals are overworking. So muscle pain and kidney pain are very, very different things. And that's one of the things we learn in Junction. And so moving meditation, so being human requires energy manners. It requires moving or movement meditation. And as we remember from Bruce Lee, his quote, the real stillness happens in movement. There's that pause, that quietness that happens in movement. And that movement meditation where you have that pause enhances biological variability. Here are some links. There is a couple things on Spotify. Yuri Rocket and I did a whole podcast on energy manners, and I go more into depth. So you can find it there if you want to listen to this again. And then we have a retreat coming up in Mexico next year, and that's all on moving and movement meditation. And then there are some other articles here that you can reference if you'd like. I write for Black Belt Magazine, and I will be writing one on Bruce Lee, but the one that I just wrote is on emotional intelligence and movement meditation. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I would love to